All right, Larry Lundstrom here for another forward-looking conversation with Brainy Pixel. We've got Layne with us today, the Chief Production Officer, and we have a special guest from Come and See Foundation and the Chosen TV series. I'm sure none of you have heard of that show that's gone to 120 countries, maybe more, Mark, right, around the world. 130. So we're going to hear a ton about that. Today we're talking about basically that, something that matters incredibly in today's market media economy. It's maybe the most sought after commodity, and it's the attention, our attention, this next generation's attention, and many generations, our kids, students, young students, and all the way up, as we were just talking about, to even in our adult ages, are being shaped every day by screens, stories, games, and whether we notice it or not, discipleship is happening. And we're going to dive in. The only question is, who's doing the discipling? Scripture tells each of us to teach our kids in everyday life. So what does that look like in a digital world? So today we've got Layne. We just talked about him, but we're going to be asking him to unveil this kind of a new platform that he's invested in, along with a group of innovators, a new gamified learning platform. And here it is. What we're going to let the secret out of the bag. Mark McKane, Chief Growth Officer with Come and See Foundation. He's helping take the Chosen all around the world, and he's actually served in EA gaming, in the gaming industry. He can tell us more about that. These guys, gentlemen, it's an honor to have both of you. And if you don't mind, let's just introduce yourselves.
Sure. My name's Layne. Like you said, I'm a third owner in an animation and production studio called Brainy Pixel Productions. And I've got 3 amazing kids, an amazing wife. One's about to go off to college, might be playing football in college, which is crazy. So we're navigating all that right now. It's just a lot of fun and nerve-wracking too, because time is ticking and we still don't know where he's going to be next year, but it's fun. But yeah, I've been in multimedia, faith-based industry for 20 plus years, worked at large mega churches, highly creative places where we're pushing the envelope of how churches tell stories and bring the Bible to life. I've worked for also corporate world. I spent about 7 or 8 years with Lockheed Martin. Yeah, one of the big opportunities that I had that God really blessed me with was a cool opportunity to be a flight test photographer. Not many people know what that is, but I got to go up in the back seat of an F-18 fighter and take photos and videos of the F-35 during its flight test phase. And so did some amazing things, got to spend 3 weeks out on an aircraft carrier on the deck, and just experiencing what that was like was amazing. During that time, God really put on my heart to, something else is next. So I went back to school, got my master's in marketing and communications, which brought me here to Fort Worth to work for Lockheed's main headquarters here. I was supporting the general manager of the F-35 program, where God was just like, here, you're going to learn a new skill. And so I was writing emails and employee communications for the largest defense acquisition program in history. So it was pretty wild. But God then quickly put on my heart a few years later that corporate world's not really for me, and urged me to go out on my own. And so I hooked up with a highly creative, very great guy that has a show called Allegories. It's an animated kids show that had a huge success, about 10, 15 years ago. And then he wanted to kind of reimagine it. So I jumped on board and became an animator for him and launched my own media company. And just God's opened one door right after the other to lead me to Brainy Pixel. And we're just growing like crazy and just doing a lot of really neat things. And we're excited about the future and what God has for us. And as we expand into new territories that we don't know anything about, but we're learning and engaging and pushing the envelope so we can bring really great content to the next generation.
Nice, dude. Fate teens to allegory animation. To only God could connect those two things together. But so Mark's going to come out and say that he flew Top Gun, I think, at some point. Is that right, Mark?
Larry, you made a mistake. Having me go after Layne and that amazing career. It sounds super excited. The only thing I have to do with planes is I jumped out of one time, and but it was a perfectly good airplane too. So I questioned the sanity of jumping out of one. But
nice.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Hey, you just got back from Jordan. Like, you just stood in front of Petra. So I think you've got some lore, some legacy.
I've been able to see a few things, but the experiences, Layne, we live for experiences, and those experiences, Layne, are pretty amazing. So I want to grab more time with you and hear more about that. I'm Mark McKane. I worked with Come and See, Chief Growth Officer. I've been with Come and See for just over 12 months now, joined in December of 24, sorry. And we are the ministry behind the TV series The Chosen. So Larry, you know about that because you've been a part of that. So you've actually benefiting from Larry in beginning. He was kind of the architect of some of the early distribution points for ministry impact for Come and See. And our desire is to share the gospel through this amazing story that Dallas Jenkins and the 5 and 2 Studios created of this intimate, relatable story of the gospel that through The Chosen. We put that 220 languages now. It's over 230 countries, Larry, that is now been distributed with some level of content that's been downloaded and resourced.
Wow.
We've got 55,000 churches that have now jumped into Christmas with The Chosen this past year. We're on our way to over 100,000 on a path where we want to resource 1 million ministries with not just the episodes, but the content. So The Chosen, which is now owned by Come and See, is really ripe for ministry, discipleship, and evangelism. This is why that story exists. It's so much more than a show. And we now put it in study guides and reading plans and sermon frameworks. And we have amazing journeys of discipleship. And we are sending this across the world so that every tongue, every tribe, every nation will experience the gospel and have an opportunity to call in the name of the Lord and be saved. That is our mandate. That is our mission. We want to see everyone transformed by Christ.
Amen.
Before I joined Come and See, I was leading commercialization for a company called Dayspring, which is also a Christian organization, and Bibles and publishing content, discipleship content. And before that, I did that for 9 years. But then that was my time to actually have purpose in life, because I spent most of my career, 20 years, in the video game space. So I was not the creative Layne. I didn't create the games. I was the commercialization guy. I'm a spreadsheet and PowerPoint guy. I can look at P&Ls and understand cost and develop the relationships. Although I'm not the creative, I love the creatives. I think that's the core of any organization, especially one that is so focused on storytelling. It's that creative engine, because it begins with that story. It begins with the story. It doesn't begin with a P&L. Doesn't begin with commercialization, begins with the story. Where all the other things will begin to take shape. And that's what we were about at EA. It was truly about storytelling, immersive, experiential storytelling. So, and that's what really shaped my life.
I love that. Both of you guys have hit on several things that we're going to dive deep on. Thank you guys for being here. And let me just say this to those that are watching. I've had the firsthand experience working with Mark, working with Layne, working with Dallas Jenkins, who came up with The Chosen. And exactly what Mark just said, it starts with the story. I mean, our whole goal, the three of us even here today, is to tell more people about Jesus, to give them wholesome content, to engage for growth, for engagement. Like, we're going to dig into that. So you're in good company. These are all men who follow God, who walk with Christ, and I'm just going to brag on them a little bit, who are brilliant in their own disciplines. It's pretty wild just hearing both of your diverse backgrounds, how God will say, it's time, I want to use you, and then take everything that you've experienced to that date and start using it for his kingdom. So thank you guys again for taking time for this conversation and sharing your expertise and your heart. So we've hit on it, but let me go there. First topic, and this is up for grabs. I would love to hear from both of you. It seems like everybody today's marketing, they're trying to share something. They're trying to share a product or a service or creative content, which is great. That's great. But the hot button topic is attention, right? Anyone can market, but not everyone can gain attention. Right now, God's using The Chosen and the television series to get people's attention for Christ. So Mark, that's an easy one to throw to you. And Layne, what you're involved with right now, animation, delivering content to places like Minnow.tv, Answers in Genesis, like you name it, the big streamers. Like, let's talk about attention for a minute. It's the most valuable currency in culture right now. From TikTok, Roblox, Fortnite, YouTube, everyone's fighting for it. Why should kids and families give their attention to faith-based content? Like, let's talk about that for a minute. Like, what are we offering that is worth families and students and kids' time. So you guys tell us a little bit about your world.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I'm glad you mentioned stories early on because I feel like that's one of my passions with everything that we're doing is elevating the stories that we're telling in this kids, especially for us, faith-based space. And there's just so many people out there that want to put their content out and they want to do good content, but they don't have the resources or the writers or the artists to do it. And so we're really trying to do, we hear it often, excellence in this space. And like I said, specifically for kids, there's just not very many people that are going that extra effort to tell good stories where they're just trying to get stuff out there that we can afford to do this and we can afford to do that. And it's not that good, but it's at least something. Like we don't want to do that. We want to tell stories that kids want to watch, that want to hear, just like what The Chosen is doing with the adult audience. They decided that the story was important and they engaged in it in a different way than people have ever seen. And so that's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to push the envelope of what other people are doing. Right now, as we're recording this, NRB is happening. National Religious Broadcasters or Convention is happening. And every year that I go, I'm like, look around and there's just so many resources, millions of dollars worth of people that creating content in this Christian space. And there's maybe less than 10% of it is for kids. It's like, why is that? Why aren't we investing more in reaching this next generation? Because nobody's figured out the formula to do it. So that's what we're trying to do is how do you make content that is successful and engaging? And as soon as there's somebody that leads the way in it, I think you're going to start to see other people doing it. But we've got to have somebody to lead the way in that, just like The Chosen has in faith-based adult contents.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Mark, let's throw it over to you. I'm just going to say this because it's always on the table. Like Christian content isn't always known or hasn't been always known as the best content, right? Like it's kind of this like, okay, I'll watch because it's got a good message, but it doesn't compete with Hollywood. That's actually changing. Mark, tell us what's happening with The Chosen and how you guys see that.
I'll address that a little bit, but I think especially in the Christian space, we equate stewardship with low cost.
Hmm.
And so we're always looking to we're saving nickels and dimes for the kingdom. And we miss the point that God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. All the resources available to man are his. There's nothing that's not his. And his story deserves the highest possible quality that we can provide. Now, we have to get that message out to those that have the heart and have the resources and they understand that there's experiences that will point people to Christ, but we need to break through. We need to break through all the Hollywood. We need to break through all the AAA games. We have to break through the noise that there are millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars going into that are pointing them to other things that we know are not kingdom related. The kingdom deserves our best. And that includes our pocketbook, includes our time, talent, and treasure, the best. So we have to remove this poverty mentality and start focusing on what is the end goal. We want people to experience something that points them to Christ. We want to break through and compete in the world because the world is competing for the attention of our kids, for attention of even of adults. And if we don't compete with that for Christ, then why are we here? We're here to know and to make Christ known. And we need to do it with every ounce of weaponry, resource, time, talent that is available to us.
That's exactly right. You hit on it well. And let's just talk a moment about gaming, right? Gaming, but I'm going to add a word in there that normally you don't hear about it with the word gaming. It's gaming and discipleship, right? So this generation, next generation, and as Mark, as you said earlier, it's not just the kids, it's adults of all ages are being discipled, are being, these are my words, right? I don't want to put them on you guys, but are being taught or being immersed in a world where they're learning things. And, if we want to talk about, I don't want to beat up on any games, but because I'm a gamer myself, like Call of Duty. I think I've played this game once. I feel like I'm confessing a sin right now, like Grand Theft Auto, right? I know that to Minecraft, like that's incredibly addicting game, which I love it. Our kids still play today. But let's talk about gaming, this immersive, this just something that keeps you there, that brings you in, but you're learning in that world and of that world, and how maybe could could faith and wholesome content organizations produce along that quality, along that level of immersiveness? How could we use that as a tool potentially?
And I think you hinted at it before. I mean, our Brainy Pixel is we're launching a new platform this year called Mission Quest Academy. And that is our goal, is to bring a Christian worldview of education to a gamified experience. And so it's basically, we feel like, if we can hit that, somebody called it incentivized learning. It's incentivized learning where they're engaging and they're having fun, and then getting them away from the screen and engaging with others about what they're learning. That's really our goal, is to be able to be a holistic platform that is feeding into them, and they're wanting to do it because they're getting that feedback from a character, something that they're awarded, whether it's digital currency and things like that they're used to getting on these platforms. That's our goal, is to engage with them and redeem kind of that idea that they've already been developed with other games that other companies are doing. So let's bring that type of energy and that type of education and material to the Christian education area. And that's what we're hoping for.
Nice. Yeah. No, that's cool. Well, Mark, we once had a conversation just briefly, and I'll, go as far as you want with this, but how the gaming world has learned how to keep the attention of the players, of the users. Like, let's talk about that for a second.
Well, it's a first of all, it's about measurements, right? I mean, it's like, if you really care about who you're serving, you're going to measure their experience. So is it actually achieving what you're trying to achieve? Free to play was really I remember when free to play games were first introduced into the market. And most of us that had P&L responsibility were like, no, free. That doesn't flow to the bottom line well. But it was free, put an emphasis on reciprocation. Reciprocation, what does that mean? That means if I give and I give and I give, if I serve a really good experience and they enjoy it so much that at some point in that gaming experience, there will be a desire to reciprocate and provide back to that game in the form of currency. First of all, you're measuring time. Time is currency. If you get somebody experiencing so much about the game that they enjoy, that some point in that cycle of the game, there will be a moment where they'll go, I want to actually provide back to this game. There's a saying, why do you go to a restaurant? You go to a restaurant because you have a need. I'm hungry. Why do you go back? You go back for the experience. You can go to many restaurants and get your need filled for that hunger, but not many places will give you an experience that you want to return to time and time again. That's what you want out of a game. That's what you want out of any kind of experience that you're creating, any kind of medium. Am I providing enough for reciprocation, for them to return because they experienced something that was truly exceptional and was focused on them, not on us.
It's really good. And like you hit on something, time is our most valuable currency, right? Our time, our attention. And I share this quite often. And remember how the Lord used like the time during the pandemic, right? There was this new show out called The Chosen by Dallas Jenkins, who he even shares, right? Like the movie that came out a couple of years before had completely flopped in theaters. And here comes this new Jesus television show that's available on our phones like during the pandemic. And what did we all have during the pandemic that we don't have right now? We had a ton of time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And what you said, Mark, is exactly right. So we watched episode 1 and then people came back and watched episode 2. Not only that, and this wasn't the topic of today, but it just hits on what you were talking about. But the experience was so good, they decided to start paying it forward and funding it and donating, which honestly led the way later for Come and See to exist for all the donations that go into support such an incredible story.
And Larry, I think it's because Dallas and that team focused on the experience so that there would be reciprocation. They wanted to provide such a good experience that others would begin to also pay it forward. That's a result. You didn't pay to go jump in to watch it. You were paying it forward. You got a free experience, and it needed to be so impactful that you would desire someone else to experience it. And so you paid it forward. And that meant I better have the best quality, the best story, the best immersive experience that I can provide regardless. And they did. And that, I think, has paved the way for other Christian content, House of David. There is this movement right now around Christian media content, and it's beginning to emerge into, I think, that the high quality level versus just telling a story and getting the grace that it's an amazing purpose of the story. I really understand the meaning for it, and thank you for that meaning, but I really didn't identify well with the characters, and the writing was just so.
Yeah.
The writing, the story, the immersion is now going to new heights. Somebody had to break that seal. And I think, and I'm proud that I think Dallas is one of those that said, I want to break through. I need to compete for the attention of the Christian and beyond audience.
That's right. That's exactly right. Dallas, I mean, it was God's perfect timing. Even like, I'll just say this, I'll brag on him a little bit. He even said yes and did this little mobile video for our church while we were in Kodiak, Alaska. We were gathering together to watch season 1 outdoors during the pandemic, and we played that. But only and he even says this, God did something incredibly much bigger than he ever imagined. Same thing with John Irwin with House of David, and now Wonder Project, who's built their own channel through Amazon. And The Chosen and Come and See is actually opening this huge funnel for faith-based and wholesome, engaging content for the next, oh my goodness, 100 years. Like, I don't want to put a time on it. So I want to say this, Mark, in Brainy Pixel and what Layne's doing, like, it's really cool to see this momentum, to see investors like building things, to your point, as long as it's good, as long as it's engaging, as long as it's entertaining and captivating. And Brainy Pixel is doing just that with this release. I think it's a summer release. Layne, tell us about Mission Quest Academy. And Mark's right. Like, the litmus test is we can get 1,000 users in that platform, but we want them to come back, right, and tell their friends.
Yeah, and we feel like really this is a two-pronged attempt at bringing something new. Is talking about the entertainment that people are providing to faith-based families, and then also education materials that are out there. It just seems like, there's not something that brings high quality entertainment that can also teach to this younger audience. It's either, somebody talking up there and teaching with a whiteboard, 1 + 1 = 2. There's no creativity in that. There's no engagement in that. And so we want to provide mostly homeschool families, but we see it growing bigger than that. Just an ancillary product that allows their kids to be in a safe space online, to be learning and growing with what they're teaching in their homeschool curriculum and in their schools, wherever it may be. And also it be fun and entertaining, and so that they'll want to come back to it, that experience. We're building in an avatar set where, I'm sure Mark knows all about that experience of getting your own character and getting able to make them customize it just like you want it. So that's where our engagement is they just want to get that new hat, that new pet, whatever it may be. And it's crazy how these kids will spend so much time just focusing on how their little persona looks and is on. So that's really where this is going, is we're taking some already existing content like allegory, where we can take what they're teaching in there and also expand on it. So we're bringing in real people to elaborate on, allegories is a lot of outdoor adventure type of thing, or Lily's Lab is a lot of experiments. And so we're teaching about those types of things and then relating it to the story and then asking kids questions of what they learned, all within the same app. They get progress, and then when they get to the end, they get coins, they get badges, all those things that they're used to getting in other platforms. And so that's where the engagement of trying to get them to come back comes. And then we're really trying to get the parents involved as well. We're going to encourage kids, go get your parent and tell them, 10 things you learned about the sun, and then they can sign in and give you 10 extra points. So that way there is not just, hey, I'm locked in on this screen the whole time, I'm engaging with others. We want to get to where we're teaching them about, moral things like sharing and like, being a good neighbor. And so what does that mean? How do they engage with their neighborhood along those things? And so really trying to make it something that families will just be excited about their kids doing, and the kids are excited about doing. And we're looking to launch at May as our big time frame. That's our push. We're going to be at 6 different homeschool conferences this year with a booth to kind of get the word out, sign people up, and see how they're liking it. And as we improve it and we build it, taking that feedback and just growing it into something that we feel like can be super successful, not only for us, but for families across this country, even across the world, to just help families educate their kids in a way that maybe they've never even had before, and definitely not in the Christian worldview type of mindsets.
Yeah, that's good. Mark, maybe we can shoulder tap you and see if you can't get one of your best game designer buddies to pick this thing apart. Just poke holes in it, because like here's the thing, and I'll use that in transition to our next topic, and have fun with this one, guys. We'll edit it out if you get too crazy, but I'll just say Joe Rogan like loves to poke holes in things. So let's do a little Joe Rogan round. Innovation versus tradition, the tension point. Like, what sacred cows in the Christian space, in the media content, whatever you want to say, what sacred cows need to die? Like, what do we still do? Or and you could take the positive route to say, what are some things that done it well in spite of our terrible past, quality past?
Okay, so church order of service.
Yeah,
you're familiar with the order of service, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you've worked a Sunday, if you've been a pastor, if you've been an elder, you know the order of service. It's so many minutes here. You come in with here's a worship song, then you do announcements, and then, but it's so, it's micromanaged down to the detail, and it is replicated Sunday after Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. And it is, the book of Joel talks about, like, rend your heart, not your clothes, right? It says, we got all these locusts coming in and like tore everything apart of what they were doing from their day-to-day business and what they were doing for the Lord, because they were doing it not out of their heart, but out of just going through the motions. It was rote. And I think our Sunday services and how we get so caught up on doing it well based on hitting the right minutes and the right time, and that we forget about the experience. We forget about meaning. We forget about, like, let's make room for the Holy Spirit. We're come here to worship, not to make sure that the drums are playing, to the right beat. It should be an immersive experience with the Lord in community.
That's
and
cool.
I think, and I'm guilty of it because I've gone through it. We've a mobile church. I was an elder in that, and the order service it led everything. But boy, it didn't sit easy with us. We wanted to do something different. Now, innovation versus the tradition. We did not have the courage to innovate. And eventually it will catch up to you, and doing things the same way over and over and over again, you will have fewer and fewer people wanting to experience it.
Yeah, it's interesting because we just talked about the pandemic, and this innovative thing just blew up, right? Called The Chosen. I was just thinking, you're talking about church worships. Our best times in that little church in Kodiak, Alaska, were when we had to go meet on the beach at Gulf of Alaska. So we took a acoustic guitar and we sang a cappella on the shores. We actually did 30 baptisms.
No charge.
So it's like, yes, it's like, don't be afraid to throw out so I'm going to call it the sacred cow. This is how we've always done it, sort of thing. And this is what works. Right. But I mean, it's not just churches do that. Like, let me pick on Microsoft or the whole structure where you have so many customers, like it succeeded, tends to tie you down sometimes to the model that you've always done. Layne, any thoughts on this sacred cow conversation?
I don't know if it's as much a sacred cow as it is right now. Obviously, the buzzword is AI, and what do Christians do with it, and what does it mean, and how can we use it in a way that glorifies God, as opposed to, taking advantage of, somebody else's work, that, all those different arguments. And we feel like we're using it as a tool to bring something that nobody else has ever brought before. Because, like you said, Mark, we don't have the money to put at it, so let's put our gifts and our talents and our resources at it. And so we're really we feel like AI is going to be a big part of our Mission Quest Academy to develop content that we wouldn't otherwise be able to create because it either takes too long or too many people and all those things. And so we're working out ways to teach kids in an engaging way with characters that they'll love and that they'll really relate to using that technology. And so I think the idea of us always being 10 years behind in the Christian space and us not wanting to try things that might be too worldly or they aren't sure of. I think that that's something that we need to kind of get rid of and start really realizing that, these things are here and the technology is here. And so how can we use it and redeem it as opposed to being scared of it? So
Nice. That's awesome. Hey, I'm going to hit you both with one last question. And this has been an incredible conversation, but just to honor everybody's time here, we can do a part 2 later if we like this. But here it is for both of you guys. Fast forward 10 years. What do you hope the kids and the students and the adults, what do you hope that the ones that grew up with The Chosen, the ones that grow up with this new incredible content that's coming out, right? House of David, right? Mission Quest Academy, like you name it. What do you hope that they look like and take away after 10 years?
Mark, that's a big question.
Send that over to the wall to me.
I see what I did there.
with anything, Larry, I mean, our heart for our children is that they will know the Lord. Success in life is not your title or what you've achieved. If you don't have generational spiritual health, then I think as a father, a grandparent, as a commissioned believer, as a royal priesthood, we've failed. And what do I want in 10 years? Have we done the things that would break through the voices that the world is sending into our children, the lack of understanding their identity, their attention spans going beyond truth? Can we now bring truth where it breaks through, that it brings order to the chaos, and that they now have this deep desire to know Christ, to live a life that then creates additional generational health in faith? Whether that looks like bigger churches, that's not what I'm looking for. I don't know, but more people loving each other because they're loved by Christ.
Amen. Good answer.
Yeah, maybe I should have first, actually. I'm regretting my decision.
No.
I definitely agree with all of that sentiment and those. That's why we do what we do. And I think everybody in this space that's truly in it for the right reason would echo that. And I just think that, beyond what Mark just said, I think it's the elevating our presence in the media space to where we are seen as, equal to Hollywood in quality and story, and that the content that Christians are making is something that is outperforming all other things because we're getting it right and because we're leading people to that experience that they're looking for, and that we're actually bringing meaning to the stories that they're watching, and it not just be an empty void of superheroes and love stories, and that we can actually tell the truth about superheroes and the real love story. So,
Amen. Well, I want to give you guys an opportunity to share any last thing that you'd like about where you're coming from, but maybe I'll give you a little bit of a carrot on this one. I mean, I have a friend just like you guys. I have a friend. He owns a commercial helicopter fleet here in the Miami Vero Beach area in Florida, and we've been meeting the last several months. God is doing something significant in his life, and he's decided to sell all of that and go all in on this new faith-based media movement. And he's trying to do it in a way that makes sense. It's good stewardship, good investment. So I want you to talk to somebody like him, if you don't mind, but it's drawing from your own past. I mean, Mark, you went from EA Games to Dayspring, now to Come and See for The Chosen. You're all in, and it's the greatest thing you ever do, and sometimes it's the most painful thing we ever do, because ministry's hard. I mean, I'm just going to say it. And Layne, same thing for you. What would you guys say to this wave of incredible, brilliant leaders who have the ability to invest in this next wave of media? What do you say to people like that? How do you encourage them?
I think from our side of the fence with focusing mainly on kids and young people is to be brave and to take a chance on something that hasn't been proven yet and that you feel like God is leading you into. There's still a lot of, I feel like, room for growth in this, like I said, kid space, and it's needed probably as much, if not more, than the adult content, because these kids, they're not getting the discipleship from their parents a lot of times, and they're only spending an hour at church at week at most. And so providing them a screen that is able to engage them at a deeper level than just what Disney can do and Nickelodeon can do is just so important. And we just don't have that right now. We have, hey, a film's in the theater. Hey, this is, coming out, and it's an hour and a half experience. And then what do the parents do? They don't have anything to help with that. And we don't want to replace that, but the parents, education, but we know that time is stretched and that it's just not happening in the home like we hope that it is. So that's what I'd really encourage is take a leap of faith to invest into something that is going to help disciple our kids and help bring them just closer to Christ, and also a better human being as they grow up, give them something that maybe they're not getting in their family as role models. We don't know what their family is like. And so just providing that encouragement, that education, and then that spiritual journey could be something that is really beneficial for him and for everybody that gets involved, and bigger than just, hey, let's release a movie in the theaters.
That's good.
I think the number one thing is don't be so caught up in your fear about what tomorrow's going to bring. Don't try to get the perfect vision and the perfect approach or the perfect plan. There's never been one plan that survived first contact. So you have to be adaptable. So just take the next step of obedience. Take a step. God will shine a light on that step. That's all we need. And the next step and the next step. As long as God's shining that light on the step in front of you, then take the step. We don't need to see the full stadium lights. We don't need to see the next 10 years. We need to see the next step. And if we can take the next step in obedience, it'll all start to become clearer and clearer and clearer. So embrace ambiguity, embrace the fog of war, and just take the next step of obedience and just adapt as you move.
Boom. So good. Mark, Layne, you guys are incredible. For those watching, to learn more about Come and See Foundation, go to comeandseefoundation.org. And right now, the big show we want you to go all in on is thechosen.tv. It's all of your support, prayers, donations, all of it, just like Mark was talking about. God is using it. I've seen it myself. Mark just got to see it in Jordan. God is using it all over the world in working on 600 languages. Same thing, Layne, BrainyPixel.com is Brainy Pixel Animation Studios, faith-based, wholesome education content. So go and check these guys out and just pray through. Like maybe God's just talking to you right now. Maybe it's time for you to get in the game and get off the bench. I mean, I hate to use that old school analogy, but it still works. I'm Larry Lundstrom. It's so good to hang out with you, Layne, Mark. God bless you both.
God bless.
Thanks, Larry. Everything that you've said about us, I could point directly back to you, man.
Hey, I appreciate that. All right, until next time.